Hey everybody, we're going to talk in this video about how to turn erectile dysfunction into the sexiest time of a couple's life. I know this sounds crazy, right? I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but hear me out. So in these 5 steps, I'm going to guide you through the process that I've seen with another client of mine. So for example, one of the vicious cycles, and then we're going to get into the 5 steps here, but one of the vicious cycles that I've seen is the situation where erectile dysfunction starts happening, and then she doesn't want to, the female partner does not want to say anything because she's worried about hurting the man's feelings. So she starts retracting from sex and she stops bringing it up, and she basically decides, hey, I'm not going to do this because I tried talking about it. It didn't go well. He felt bad. It made him feel worse. It led to more performance anxiety. And then she's not approaching him and he's not approaching her. And then it's just sometimes swept under the rug. Or maybe he's kind of suffering in silence and he's going to the doctor and he's trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, she's over there making sure that she never brings it up and pulling herself further and further away and leading to this distance that happens. Sound familiar? I'm Dr. Diane. I am the owner of mylibidodoc.com, and let's get into these steps. So hear me out, because I understand when I say this, right? I understand when I say the sexiest time of life. I say this with extreme caution because I know that this is a very impactful thing for the man, for the woman, for a couple. And so in this, the reason this can be the sexiest time of life, and again, I'm going to tell you the steps, but the reason this can be the sexiest time of life is because in these steps, what I'm going to teach you is how to expand your orgasm capacity, how to expand your pleasure capacity, and how to do that while still addressing and while still working on fixing the fundamental imbalance that causes the erectile dysfunction, right? So it's not to say that we're not going to still do the steps to fix the imbalance. That is clearly very important, and it's absolutely a medical imbalance that is causing that. There is some sort of imbalance in the mind, in the body, in the spirit, psyche that is leading to that. And so while that is being explored, why not take these 5 steps and turn this into a time that you can get to know your partner's body and their pleasure and their orgasm in so many new and profound ways. And that is why it can be a sexy, sexy time of life. And that is why I've seen these 5 steps work so well, like in these clients of mine I just described in this story, is because we are shifting our awareness to be away from just this one way of experiencing pleasure and realizing, oh, there are so many more ways we can make our partner feel amazing. We can make our partner orgasm. We can bring so much closeness to our partner in all of this. So step 1, we got to get the stigma out. Right? So there's so much stigma. There's so much stigma around erectile dysfunction. There's so much stigma around females that can't orgasm, right? There's so much stigma around this. And all it is a medical imbalance. And like medically speaking, it is no different than any other medical problem. It's just that this one impacts us so much more closely. This particular medical imbalance can become like a threat for men, many times their masculinity and their ability to provide pleasure. But again, what if I told you there's all of these other ways to provide pleasure? So the more we can start to reframe this and look at this as an imbalance and not make it to mean something about who we are, who you are, and your ability to provide anything, and just get that out of your mind, because that is not true. That is something that has been sold to us as like on a platter, as like meaning. There's no meaning behind it. The only meaning is there's something out of balance. For many people, it's a cardiovascular issue, right? If you are trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and we're going to get into the other 4 steps here in a moment, but if you're trying to figure out what the cause of erectile dysfunction is, or what the cause of a partner's erectile dysfunction is, or vaginal dryness, or any sexual imbalance, go take my Libido quiz. It's totally free at libidoquiz.com. That's going to guide you and give you insight into things like lab tests that your doctor may not have thought to run. So it's going to, when you take that quiz, it's going to generate some response that's going to say, hey, you want to consider these lab tests, or you want to consider these lifestyle changes. Here's what you should be talking to your doctor about, right? So it's libidoquiz.com. Let's get into the 4 other juicy steps here. Okay, so this one is truly step 2 is truly a band-aid for the problem. It is all about curiosity. So when we are in a situation where something's changing, right? Erectile dysfunction in this particular conversation, one of the opportunities here is to be extremely curious about what is providing pleasure for our partner. If you have not watched my video that I just recently put out, that is the 5 steps to really engage a female and her female anatomy and provide a lot more pleasure, go back and listen to that episode, because that is going to help you with this curiosity. But in being curious, what you're looking to see is like, okay, well, how well do you know your partner's vulva, right? How well does she know your body? How well does she know your testicles, right? How well do you know these other pleasure parts of each other that are not penetration? And for many women, there's so much pleasure that happens outside of penetration. And for many women, orgasms are actually profound and sometimes even more amazing outside of penetrative sex. So from that standpoint, if we're curious around, oh, this is like let's begin to really explore all the areas of the vulva. Like I said in that last video, let's understand that the clitoris is not just that little nub, that it has these legs that are like almost like a wishbone that extend down into the pelvis and oftentimes get ignored. You know, like ignoring that part of a clitoris is like ignoring the head of the penis, right? It's like this major erogenous tissue that most men and women don't even realize it exists. So the more we can become curious about learning that, the more we can provide immense pleasure for your partner while you are figuring this out. And then step 3 is begin to talk about your curiosities, right? One of the things I think that happens for so many couples when we start having erectile dysfunction issues is it just becomes like sex is not talked about, or if it is, it's all about like the erectile dysfunction. Well, what if we start bringing conversation into the bedroom about sex, but not about that situation, right? Not about the ED, not about that. And we start actually talking about fantasies and other ways we would like to explore pleasure together. And again, this is not to say that we're not still trying to fix the underlying problem, right? There's still reasons for that, and we're still going to go do that. But what the idea here is that while this is happening, we might as well take advantage of this time when we're trying to fix the problem to say, well, there's no time like the present to go explore and to go be curious and to go learn all these other tricks that we can do with our mouth, with our hands, with vibrators, all of these different things, and really explore. You know, people have nipple-gasms, right? There's no reason we can't begin to find other ways of bringing immense pleasure to each other. So curiosity and fantasy, this is step 3, is making sure we are doing that. Now, step 4 is truly figuring out the root. Like, why is this happening? So sometimes it's a huge amount of performance anxiety, pressure. Sometimes things just change. Sometimes people need more stimulation as time goes on. Sometimes people are bored and more novelty needs to be brought back into the bedroom. And then, of course, sometimes it's circulation. Sometimes it's testosterone. We even see studies, for example, that show that estrogen in men helps testosterone work better. So sometimes there's cases where testosterone is actually normal, but giving a man that is low in estrogen, just a teeny little bit of estrogen, right? Men are supposed to have estrogen too, just in small amounts. But when the men are given teeny amounts of estrogen, sometimes the erectile dysfunction gets better. So we want to consider all of those things. We want to consider those hormones. We want to consider the nerves. We want to consider the blood flow, any pelvic floor abnormalities. If people are having a lot of like tension in their pelvis, that could be restricting blood flow too. So make sure you go take my libido quiz, my free libido quiz that I mentioned. Again, libidoquiz.com. So easy. And do that to help you find those root causes. And then number 5, and then I'm going to get in a moment after number 5 where we're going is I'm going to give you a couple tips for women, and then I'm going to give you a tip for men. So I'm going to talk to men and women slightly different after step 5 here. So hang with me for that. Now, while you are working on the root, start having fantasy dates. Right? So fantasy dates are going to be dates to explore things that you've never explored before. And obviously you're going to have to be creative if penetrative sex is not on the table right now. But what are other things that you have never explored, right? Is there some place that it would be just super hot to explore oral sex or anything else? Like what would be super hot during this time to explore? And don't even worry about where it goes. Just like get off on the fantasy, right? That is what is really possible right now. So you bring life, you bring novelty back into that relationship while you are looking for the root. Okay, now for women, and then I'm going to give a specific tip for men. For women, make sure you think about as you're exploring different things with your partner. I really encourage specific feedback, extremely specific feedback about all of the ways that things that you love, all the ways that you're having the most pleasure. And the more specific feedback you can give, it is so helpful. One, it can help like really build that confidence, right, of your partner to say, okay, I am still able to provide all of these things. That can be extremely supportive and confident building. 2, it's going to make your pleasure, it works because it's going to make your pleasure even better. And it takes a lot of focus, right? Pleasure is really related to our capacity to stay present. So it takes a lot of focus to really be like, oh yeah, that exact spot. I love that spot. And I love when you did that flippy thing with your fingers or your tongue or, these kind of things. It takes a lot of focus to be that present. And that is where we can experience a lot more pleasure, is when we are so in our senses. So it's like this self-revolving thing around we are staying so focused so we can give good feedback and we can build our partner up, we can build our pleasure life. And at the same time, when we're that focused, it's allowing us to drop so much deeper into sensation. And that allows sensation to be even better. It's really hard to enjoy pleasure if you're not completely focused on your body. And for men, so this is a time to reorient to your relationship with sex. So much of the time, we have this pressure, right? Like men have this pressure around largely the penis being the way that pleasure can be given and received. And I know in talking to many men, I know this is the favorite way for many, many, many women or many, many men. But there is a story that is basically something like, if she was I hear sometimes certain men say things like, well, if she was my woman, my cock would be all she needs, or, something like that. I see every once in a while, men saying stuff like that. Luckily not in the communities I work with, but online and these kind of things. So anyway, so in saying something like that, that's this societal pressure that there has to be so much the cock has to work so well, or there's going to be so much letdown for the woman. First of all, that is not true, and that is putting an crazy pressure on yourself. So the reorientation here is yes, this is a great, amazing, beautiful way to give and receive pleasure, but there are also many other beautiful ways, and it's a both and, because again, yes, we want to fix the erectile dysfunction. I'm not suggesting, I would never suggest anything different. Yes, we want this functioning super, super well. I'm just talking about in the meantime, how we can use this time to explore and be so curious and find new ways of exploring pleasure that we never maybe went down because everything was working perfectly. And this is why it can be such a sexy time, because all of this curiosity starts to unfold. And then once you have everything fixed, then the sky is the limit, because now you have this whole palette of colors, of sexual colors, to choose from for your sexual experience. So if you like this content, please do subscribe. Remember, I talk about things like pleasure for him, pleasure for her, how to have more orgasms, techniques, how to talk to your partner, and so much more. So please do subscribe so you continue to get information like that. And remember, you can go to hotterlife.com to get my ebook for free. It's 5 easy steps for mind-blowing orgasms and romance. So you can find that for free at hotterlife.com. I'm Dr. Diane. Ciao for now.